Sorry movie, syncopated reading is still reading, even if you put up the letters in some weird rhythmic order. We refuse to be impressed by your vowel movement. Jesus Christ, this movie started off with a poetry quote. What the f*** am I supposed to do now? Should I just stop watching? Am I about to watch art or something imitating art? Unprocessed seafood! Or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb in South Central while drinking juice in the hood. Overly metaphorical meteor is overly metaphorical. Meteor-phorical? Flighty whiteys. Also, Riggins' dressing room has its own radiator, space heater, fan, and air conditioning unit. Diva much?
How did we end up here?
Introspective narration, or the unexpected virtue of inner monologues. Answering your daughter's Skype wearing nothing but underwear. Movie tries to defend itself from the inevitable CinemaSins video by putting some quote that could be interpreted as a critique of critics. Luckily for us, we're not critics, we're assholes.
Sorry I'm late. That's not good to me.
Not this lateness nonsense again. How exactly are you late, and why would you even mention it? You left as soon as they paged you, and you sat down exactly when it was your line. Plus, aren't you the boss here? The subtlety of Keaton's look to the rafters here, when seconds later the light will fall, is one of the things that make this movie so special. Everything about it points to the tension between the reality and mysticism of art.
Just find me an actor, a good actor. Woody Harrelson.
He's doing the next Hunger Games.
The movie will then go on to note that Michael Fassbender is doing the X-Men prequel, Jeremy Renner is doing the Avengers, and Robert Downey Jr. is playing Iron Man. So where's Michael Keaton and the Batman franchise in this world? It's the weird problem that comes up when you mix fantasy and reality, and Michael Keaton plays not Michael Keaton, and Edward Norton plays exactly Edward Norton.
You're my attorney. You're my producer. You're my best friend.
Galifianak's position.
That clown doesn't have half your talent, and he's making a fortune in that Tin Man getup.
Now that Keaton has basically played a version of Birdman in the Marvel Universe, does that make this meta-commentary better or worse? Are we sure this isn't an actual documentary?
Look at that.
Yeah, cool telekinesis and all, but he apparently has powers that also include completely changing the writing on this note from earlier, including making the word "the" disappear.
Where did you read that?
It was tweeted by @Prostate Whispers.
Movie's casual mention of a non-existent Twitter account results in at least 4 very lame versions of Prostate Whispers on Twitter, and me having to look them up. You're welcome.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's why 20 years ago I said no to Birdman 4.
It's interesting that this movie, which parallels Michael Keaton's life in some respects, chooses Birdman 4 as the movie he didn't do, when it was Batman 3 he didn't do in real life. What, would saying he didn't do Birdman 3 be too on the nose?
How do you know Mike Shiner?
We share a vagina.
Wait a minute. Does that mean that you and he are sleeping together? Or does that mean that you and he are sleeping with another woman at the same time? I'm not judging. I'm just fantasizing. I'm trying to figure it out. Brett Ratner.
You're great.
Your ass is great.
Dude, seriously?
Beyond the general ickiness of the line, she's wearing loose cutoffs. Does harassment now come with X-ray vision included? Also, Mike Shiner is a hornier devil than the average CinemaSins writer. Next thing you know, he's going to be complaining that the scene doesn't contain a lap dance.
Well, get dressed. Wiggins' daughter's hanging around, and I don't need her to walk
Leslie.
in here. No, Mike, you haven't seen her.
Character interrupts the person who has crucial information for no reason other than to advance the plot or embarrass themselves cliché.
You said it's fake, the bananas are fake.
Looks like Mike Shiner went to the Quentin Tarantino school of fake stuff needs to be real in order to truly work when performing things. If getting Mike Shiner was such a big catch, and the sales are depending on him, why is his name and face nowhere to be found on any of the ads outside the theater?
You know, the douchebag's born every minute. That was P.T. Barnum's premise when he invented the circus.
Really? Because according to a musical I saw recently, he was a kind-hearted and attractive businessman with a voice of satin and a heart for the outcasts. And that's not your fault, per se, but here's a sin for just making me think of that movie that didn't exist when this one came out.
Believe it or not, the only opinion that matters in New York theater is hers.
I actually don't believe it. In all of New York, one voice. Do the other newspapers even employ theater critics? Why would they, if only one voice matters? Also, they just randomly walked into this bar, and the one person's opinion who matters is sitting at the bar right now. That's incredible.
You're Riggin Thompson, right?
Where does this woman come from? And how does she have such spectacular eyesight? Riggin is sitting with his back to the door. Because she has her kid with her, we're left to assume she was on the street, spotted him inside this bar, then dragged her family inside to go pester him. That's a hardcore fan right there, man.
A man becomes a critic when he cannot be an artist.
I'm kind of surprised Tabitha didn't say something along the lines of, "Luckily, I'm a woman," or something from the Book of Ewan. Are we sinning this because she doesn't say it? Well, yes, we are. And would have if she did. See how that works?
Let's really do it. Let's really fuck.
Mike tries to method Lindsay during her performance, and despite her unwillingness, he persists. And it's hilarious because he has a visible boner on stage later? Hold on while I try to think of a real reason that might be funny. This blood squib is clearly blowing away from Leslie and Mike, but when we see them later, they are covered in blood. Was there a second shooter on the grassy knoll?
Do it again.
Naomi Watts reenacts Mulholland Drive and doesn't even give David Lynch a royalty check. Also, okay movie, fine. You want to blur the line between fantasy and reality, but this kiss comes completely out of nowhere and serves these characters in what way again?
I just got out of rehab. It's the closest thing I get to a drug.
You mean besides that joint you were smoking like 5 minutes ago?
It wasn't all Dr. Drew or anything, but that dude from American Pie was there.
Dr. Drew? American Pie? Did you also hang out and watch some Buffy while kicking it to a copy of No Scrubs that you downloaded off Napster? Also, I know Sam doesn't give a shit or anything, but there are at least 4 dudes from American Pie she could be talking about here. I mean, she could say it was the dude who f***ed the pie, or the dude who drank the cup full of... I mean, damn, American Pie was a gross movie, wasn't it? Sam didn't even want to do this dare to spit on a bald dude's head, but now that she's doing it, she decides to make it a phlegmy one. Also, this is the most accurate spitting I've ever seen, and I've been to all the rodeos that matter.
If you weren't afraid, what would you want to do to me?
I'd pull your eyes out of your head. I'd put them in my own skull. I'd look around so I could see this street the way I used to when I was your age.
Dude, there's like a million ways you could have answered that, and it wouldn't have sounded like Ted Bundy. In a movie that so beautifully plays with the idea of being one take even as it shifts ahead in time, this night-to-day transition seems a clunky and unnecessary reminder that we are watching a movie trick, and steals much of the illusion we've been living in until now.
Page 12. Page 12.
What? The Lumber Liquidators ad. Because even pages are always on the left in my world.
My massive hard-on got 50,000 views.
I can't play with this.
50,000 views is nothing to be proud of, but from what I hear, it's not the size of your views, it's the motion of the promotion. Also, luckily, Mike's boner on YouTube happened in 2014, 3 years before it was inappropriate for advertisers. I mean, if Marvel and DC want me to be excited about this Batman and Hulk and Vulture crossover fight, while Gwen Stacy and Lego Joker lurk around, they're gonna have to do better than this.
I don't know if you noticed, but that was 1992.
Wait, so that must have been Birdman Returns, right?
1 hour till curtain? Yeah.
Jake tells Riggin there's 1 hour till curtain here, but the clock on the wall behind him clearly indicates it's almost 6:40. That would make the start time of the play 7:40, which is a pretty damn random start time if you ask me. Why is Mike being so coy about coming through this door? Could he really have heard Leslie walking by? Would it have mattered anyway?
Because that was like Oprah, Hallmark, R. Kelly bad.
Seriously, does this movie take place in 2002?
How do you do it?
Sam plays the pronoun game so that Mike has to ask what the hell it means.
I guess the question we should ask ourselves is, what do we talk about when we talk about love?
Roll curtains. Riggin pulls off his wig in front of at least half the audience. Also, did they set up the backstage area where people on the right side could just peep while everybody changes? I mean, at least block off the area with the clothes racks or something. Jeez. Someone help me with the geography here. The theater he needs to get back to is on his left, yet when he hits Times Square, he keeps walking straight, and then turns right. He then proceeds to walk directly in front of the band instead of staying out of sight. And then, after walking at least 3 blocks, he then turns to his right, and somehow is now back in front of his own theater. Did he fire up his portal gun when he was out of frame? That distracting moment when you accidentally walk past 2 symbols for movie roles you haven't even done yet. Former Batman in a movie about a Broadway show passes a poster for a Broadway show based on a movie starring a former Batman. Coincidence? I think not.
Sir, where are you going?
How does the ticket lady not know the famous movie actor starring in the play going on in the same building?
This is my attorney, Mr. Roth.
Apparently these guys thought the best time to discuss legal matters was during the performance. Did they buy tickets for this stunt? Or did security just let them in?
Not capable of that kind.
Is this the first time Mr. Roth has tried to call Jake today? Do you ever feel like sometimes art just wants to art so bad it arts itself till the art drowns in its own artiness? Does staring down a dead hallway for 30 seconds count?
I should probably tell you about this before anybody else does.
It's been 5 minutes since we saw him walking outside in Times Square, and somehow someone found each of these different videos, edited them together, and got them on YouTube, and got 350,000 views? No way, movie. It would have taken longer than that just to upload it, even if they aren't using Comcast.
1,300,000 hits in the last 2 hours.
Motherfuckers, stop calling views hits! This is not 2003, and this is not a blog.
Well, this is the theater. And you don't get to come in here and pretend you can write, direct, and act in your own propaganda piece.
I understand the animosity towards critics, but the way Tabitha Dickinson is written makes a lot of assumptions about criticism. That critics are born to hate on things, that they are failed artists, that they go into every form of entertainment with the idea of savaging. This critic and Bob Balaban from Lady in the Water should get married. Apparently, they're supposed to only like things and have no other opinion beyond that.
You know, what has to happen in a person's life for them to become a critic, anyway?
Despite popular opinion, we have no idea. A ranting and raving man breaks a glass vase in a crowded bar, and no one makes a move to stop him or clean up around him. It's part of the New York experience.
You take this malicious, cowardly, written review, and you shove that right the up your wrinkly, tight ass.
Riggin Thompson would be amazing at commenting on CinemaSins.
By an idiot!
Oh man, we didn't like the Transformers movies much either, but no need to shout about it on a street corner. That's what YouTube is for. Can anyone think of a clever transition to keep our one-take thing going here? No? Another time-lapse sky it is. Foreshadow of steel. Riggin imagines himself flying around New York City, but his fantasy is such that he imagines the very real reactions of the people around him. I mean, was he ever on top of that building? Or has he been in a cab this whole time imagining it?
Oh, sir. Hello, sir. You did not pay me.
For a movie on the verge of greatness, these are the small moments that bother me the most. With this cab driver asking to be paid, we are clearly told that him flying around was a delusion and that he is mentally ill, instead of allowing the illusion to linger throughout.
They were all over me. I had to fight my way out of the water and went up to the beach.
There are only 16 visible cuts in this movie, and all these great performances. How hard was it to make this thing? Like, the hardest, right?
Why do I always end up having to beg people to love me?
Is it just me, or do they have zero amplification going on here? As quietly as he's saying these lines, could anyone hear him? Shouldn't we at least hear some speaker echo off the back of the auditorium? The crowd applauds. The metaphor is complete. The artist has literally killed himself on stage to please the voices in his head and around him. Pan up to the spotlight to finish off the leitmotif, and the screen goes black, and the movie ends perfectly. Wait, why is the movie still going? Can someone tell me why the movie is still going? Movie accidentally splices drumline into itself. Spider-Man, turn off the dark. Even though Spider-Man, Iron Man, Bumblebee, and Nick Cannon are all on this stage in a fantasy sequence, it's still more coherent than most Transformers movies.
Thompson has unwittingly given birth to a new form which can only be described as super realism.
You know what? Tabitha Dickinson really is the shitty critic this movie has portrayed her as. Super realism. Is that all she could come up with? And is this really the first time someone's done something real on stage? Also, how can the show everyone else watches after this one be the same from this point forward? Unless Regan actually shoots himself on stage every night and survives it.
He shot the nose off his face.
Did he? I mean, did he? How exactly did these three reporters break through security enough to get this far? And why didn't the rest of this scoop-hungry press follow them?
What are you doing?
I'm posting a photo on your Twitter page.
This is the kind of nonsense you butchered the end of an otherwise great film for? I have never loved a movie as much for the first 100 minutes and hated it just as much for the next 10. Unlocked, easy open, screenless windows in the hospital room of someone recovering from a possible attempted suicide. Nope. So, does he kill himself thinking he can fly or not? The movie leaves it open for interpretation, like you're in some imaginary choose-your-own-adventure movie. Just to confuse things, we have this shot of Sam going to the window and smiling, which is something Regan could also be imagining, but only if he's not dead and he's just lying around in bed right now. Unless he's dead, and god damn it, just tell me if he lived or died already.
I get confused and so upset.
Why don't you get your wings in your f***ing bird suit, man?
For some reason, I thought of my first fight with Tyler.
You really f***ed up this time.
You sure f***ed up. Maybe I'm not even here. Maybe I'm just in your head. No way to confirm anything.
And I didn't want to tell you this, but Martin Scorsese is casting his new film.
He is only like the next Martin Scorsese.
Can you read my mind?
Into the air, Junior Birdman. Miss me.
He was the Hurt Locker guy. He's an Avenger.
They put him in a cape too.
He had a great look. Oh, the cape and the boots.
No capes.
Is it true you've been injecting yourself with semen from baby pigs?
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Harvey Birdman, attorney at law. I believe I can fly.
I thought I lost you, buddy. What the hell happened?
Are you seriously saying that there is nothing special about our relationship?